Well, this week's supposed to be a little bit more about get to know us. And I think you have a very, very interesting upbringing, but after that
Yes.
was interesting to say the least. But when you transitioned to leaving
I
high
love you, Mom.
school, tell me about some of the first jobs you had and how that correlates to what you do now as far as operations and running our staff and getting the systems put in place to be successful and leverage our agents so they can do what they need to do, and that's sell houses.
My first job was working for my aunt's sister. She had, I was in Canada. It was high school. So I don't know, in the 90s. So she had government contracts because, Ottawa. Anyway, so from what I remember, I don't think I understood it at the time as much, but she had these big binders of data input. And so this is when everything was being put into the computer. So I think you would get, like, companies would get contracts from the government to input things into them so that everything now is in their databases online. So I did a lot of database entry, and it was like HTML.
Well, this was 20 years
her.
ago, right?
Yeah, so they had all the information was already in there, and then we would just have to go in and put in the formula or whatever you call those to make it like a header, to make it a paragraph, to put a period, to make, So it was that for a couple hours. And I can remember getting my first check because it was hourly and it was maybe $8 an hour or something. And it was like $200. And I was so freaking excited. I mean, I was in high school, and at the time my parents were so strict. So there was no leaving the house, working outside the house, or doing anything like that. So the fact that I got a job and that, I mean, she knew this lady, so she was fine with it. So that was the first experience with that. And then graduated high school. My dad had gotten sick and we moved back to Lebanon from Canada.
This is like 18, 19 years old.
18. I turned 18 that summer because I graduated high school in 97. So 18, we were in Lebanon, and we had left everything we knew, everybody we knew, to Lebanon, which my parents were familiar with, but we were not. So that was like, it was very sad at the time, lots of culture shock. And
because you'd been in Canada your first 15, 18 years of life. You never went back and forth at all.
We did with my parents when we were
Just
younger,
visiting.
But I don't really remember. First summer I visited, I remember I was 13 with my brother and my aunt. We went for 3 months. Phil and I, we hung out there at my grandma's. That was probably the best summer we've ever had. I mean, it was amazing. But living there is completely different too. And going to school, we didn't speak, like, I speak Arabic, but I don't read and write Arabic at the level that we should. So when we went to school,
You felt like you were way behind.
No, I was way behind. I'd go into the classroom with kindergartners. Like, that was the level that we were. So they wanted to try to catch us up. And there was no, like, I could do the basic stuff, but getting into, and they were light years ahead of what I had just learned in high school in math. And then the philosophy and all the classes, there's no way I could have got caught up. And at the time you could go to American schools, like English speaking schools, but those were very expensive. And that was not something we could do.
Yeah, couldn't afford it at the time.
No. So dropped out of school. I mean, I
But you
graduated
got in your high school French and English in Canada.
Right. I had a high school degree. It was me and my older brother did. The two younger ones hadn't yet. So anyway, I left. And then I wanted to, try to get a job or try to do something meaningful. So there was another company that needed my skill set that I had built with HTML. They were doing some input stuff. So we went and worked for them for a while. And then while that was happening, Phil, my older brother, had learned about McDonald's, which in Lebanon was brand new. Yeah, anything
it's an American restaurant. Yeah,
great concept. It was huge. So he went to Cyprus with them for training and did the whole thing, and he was a manager with them. And so then they were looking for employees.
So is this like the late 90s, early 2000s?
98, 99.
Okay.
So I went and worked for McDonald's, and then I was branded the drive-through queen. I was really good at it. Like, the whole systematizing is always, I think, I didn't know it at the time, but it was always a thing. I would always put systems in place, and it would just make sense, and it would just, when you do like something repeatedly, it makes everything go a little bit faster. Efficiency. And the bonus for me is that I knew what McDonald's was because I was in Canada. The Lebanese people, not all of them did. And I spoke the language, English. And so I know the products, and I could, it was just different. I had that advantage.
So you were like the big dog in McDonald's.
I had the advantage that, like, I knew what was going on, I knew what fast food was like. And so they hadn't ever seen that before. Then I tried to go to school there. I tried to do some computer or some business stuff. And that was like, I couldn't afford to go to school or not work while going to school, but I couldn't go to school while I was working because like I couldn't find the time. It was too much. So then I thought I would just like stop going to school, work, save a ton of money, like save up the tuition for it, and then not have to do both at the same time. So while I left that school, didn't finish, Burger King had come around, which was and
the
so
competitor for McDonald's in Lebanon.
so since McDonald's already had their management and all the higher ups in place, I was like, well, I can get in on the ground
floor
with
and be
these
one of
guys.
these managers in no
Right.
time.
So I went and interviewed and got it. And then it was like 2 days before somebody had told my mom that they saw a sign that they're looking for employees to train and to whatever. So mom was like, go try. So I went. It was like 2 days before they were leaving, and the training was in Jordan. We were in Lebanon at the time. So I had to get some kind of visa done. And because I was Canadian and not Lebanese, it was different. Like my passport was different. And so I didn't get the visa until they're like, you're just going to come with us and we're driving like big buses. And then we got to Syria and they're like, if they don't let you get the work visa, then we'll just send you home. But, so we're at the border and we're trying to work on my work visa and trying to get me through. So because we were the big group, I guess they were like, okay, she's working. So they gave me
she's with these people.
a 30-day work visa for Jordan. So drove through that. And then we did that. And we stayed in these, it was 3 girls and 3 guys. And we had each apartments, and we didn't know these people. I didn't know these people. So we stayed in those apartments, and when they would just bus us to and from.
For training for Burger King.
Yeah, because we were going to open the branch in Lebanon. And so we were training in the Jordan Burger King that was already working. So we would just work there, and they would teach us everything about it. And we were going to take our knowledge and train the people in Lebanon when we opened that market, that kind of thing. So I had that upper hand again, that I spoke English. So, and even the guys at Jordan, most of the employees were Filipino. So they all spoke English. So they and I got along great, and they helped me out a lot more because they could speak to me.
Yeah.
And not so much, not everybody could speak English. I mean, they did. But anyway, so that was a lot of fun. It was the first time I'd ever been alone anywhere without my parents, other than with my family, like to Lebanon with my
And
grandma.
you're 18 years old at this point in another country.
Yeah.
Okay. Learning.
And my mom, my mom was like, I can't even believe they let me go. They were so strict growing up. I don't even know. Like I just asked to ask, and they're like, yeah, sure. And I was like, what? So then we went, and it was really fun. It was a great experience. It was a lot of learning, and it was like, I don't know. I was just good at it. Everything that had a system around it, I just sort of clung
And how
to.
did that correlate to what you do today, running our real estate team and our business from the operation standpoint, and helping leverage agents' time and giving them back more time so they can do the important things to service their clients?
It's like, the guy from The Gladiator. I don't know. There's a movie where the guy's head is there and there's all these numbers everywhere. He's like a math guy, right? And he sees, so I feel like
Russell Crowe movie.
Russell Crowe.
Beautiful
I
Mind.
feel like my brain does that for systems, not numbers for sure. But like when I see things happening, I was like, if you did it that way, it would make a lot more sense. It'd go a lot faster. And then if you did that, you wouldn't have to do this. Like I just sort of, things that are all over the place or sort of scattered, I have this way of putting them in boxes, and then I make it really narrow and clean, and it just makes more sense. Real estate is not complicated, but it's also not easy if you don't have that skill. So
which most salespeople don't have that skill, and that's the biggest struggle that real estate
struggle
agents
for me
have.
is that my personality is not, I'm not a typical, shouldn't be off the charts, whatever, salesperson. That's really not. But I have the other side that makes it where I was able to be successful because they're like, well, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to say. This is what the contracts look like. So I was able to create a way for me to get to connecting with people, to selling with, creating the team structure, the team, paperwork and not contracts, but processes. Like that all made sense. And so that wasn't hard for me. That came very easily and very naturally. The sales part I had to learn. So I think a lot of salespeople have to work on gamifying or trying to make, well, how do I make my processes better? And so I didn't have to do any of that. I had to gamify the other way. So, okay, so tell me what I should say. And then I would go back and I try and memorize what to say and how to say it. And then I just learned the business by memory first. Like I didn't really know, I didn't know how to sell. I know how to do, I don't know how to sell, So selling was hard for me to learn. And then I think it was Wayne, all those years later, when he's like, you don't have to sell real estate. You could just build relationships and just talk to people. Like that's really all it has to be. Yeah. And so that was a big shift in my business later on, that I was like, okay, I don't have to do all this cold stuff anymore. I could just, and at the time I was trying to shift to more back end stuff with the team because And you're the opposite. You're really good with the sales, and that comes naturally to you, and the other stuff doesn't necessarily. So that skill set of mine wasn't needed. Like I didn't have to work as hard on that. If I stayed in my lane and did what I was really like natural, God gifted, whatever you want to call it, good at, and you did your thing, and then we completed each other with that part of it in the sales, right? Like we make the perfect sales sort of team or coach or whatever you want to call that too. But so when I gave myself permission, because I also, being single mom for a while, and I get to like, that was scary, all commission. So I had to be better at sales. I had to learn. I had to constantly do it. So that was a struggle for me because it was on top of the pressure of trying to do and be and learn how to keep doing real estate really well. I had the like, oh my gosh, it's just me and Ryan. And, so once, when we got married, that sort of pressure went away, and it was nice for me not to have to worry about, okay, well, if you don't want to cold call, don't cold call. Just talk to your people. Just sell your houses. Just help the agents. Just build some systems. So that part correlated really well, and it just sort of became where I don't have to work hard at it. It just sort of happens. I just need to know what you need, like what the agent needs, and like, okay, I can figure that out. It's almost like a math equation, but with paperwork, Like,
So the whole thing when you were in Jordan and Lebanon, 18, 19 years old, learning this other business, what did you learn from that whole scenario that I guess propelled you into your future career? What was
systems.
Yeah, systems for sure.
Oh my God. From the beginning of the door, I mean, they had ops manuals.
Yeah.
So you just learn the ops manual, and there's temperatures and there's settings and there's ratios, like diluting water and how to clean and when to turn on. Like everything was super structured. Because if you go to one McDonald's, it's the same as all the other McDonald's.
That's the name of the game.
That's exactly what makes it, like a franchise. So I don't know that it taught me anything other than, I mean, it did. It taught me some people skills and how to, I mean, I know sometimes it catches a bad rap because it's fast food, whatever it is. That is a very, working in that business, if you're profitable in that business, you have a lot of skills. There's a lot of management, like actual management that goes into it, other than just people. Like there's profit and loss, and there's so much that goes into running it as a manager. So learning that, plus there's standards that you have to uphold, and so you have to keep maintaining things, and you have to keep training people, and you have to. So like the standards are really high for you to do that. Now, do they all achieve them? No, but you can tell when you walk into one and you're like, damn, this is like, or I'm impressed because I know how much work goes into that.
You said that before when we go into a restaurant, you're like, damn, that girl has her stuff together.
That's a hard thing to do. And people take it for granted, or they look down on whatever. It is a hard thing. And if you can manage to that level, there's a lot of stuff going on. And so I could tell when the person has their stuff together because it's like a well-rounded, and you can tell too, going into a restaurant,
Everybody knows you as this real estate team owner, helps me run our business. You do sales really well, even though it's not your wheelhouse. You're still excellent at it, and everybody loves you. You run our business, you put all the systems together. Tell me how running the yoga studio has become a passion for yours that also translates into a successful real estate career and a successful business owner. I mean, there's a two-edged sword. You were part of a mastermind of women recently, and you got to go and spend some time with them. Tell me how those conversations went. What did you learn from other women that are entrepreneurs, that are owning small businesses and running successful small businesses, and challenges they might have or challenges that you've had?
Well, I do partner with the right people. So there's that. And they are both opposite me. So there's that too. Yeah. So whatever I don't have,
they have.
You do, and Elizabeth does. And so, but the parts that you don't have, I have, and at that same level. So I think that's the benefit of that. Or so the studio was something I didn't know I wanted, for one. I mean, I was so shocked. I mean, I didn't know I was going to teach at all. That wasn't even on my radar. I just liked doing yoga.
Right.
Which sounds ridiculous. But then we just started doing it. There wasn't very much on the North Shore at the time. So we were like, in our kind of joking, we would always say, well, if we build it, they will come, because nobody didn't know social media. We didn't really know a lot of people. I don't know that we knew how hard it was until COVID happened and we had to stop. And then we were like, oh my God, that was heavy. The output, the constant going and the doing, and we did only what we enjoyed. So we were enjoying it in the process. But once you stopped and then it wasn't there, I realized how much of my life was consumed and how much of my time and energy, even when I wasn't at the studio, it was mental space, it was creative juices, whether it was for marketing or classes or learning. Like I wanted to know more and do more, and I wanted to educate myself. Like there was a lot that goes in. I mean, you get your 200-hour, but that's the trainings like that aren't where you. I mean, you learn the foundations of it.
Well, it's
but
like
that's
going
not
to real
really where
estate school. You get
right,
real estate license, and then when you go and sell a house, that's when you start
when you
learning
sell
how to
50
sell.
houses, now you
Now
sort of
you
now
know
you sort of
something.
are a real estate
Right.
agent. Then you start to learn more, and it's not the CEs that help you. It's the you go read books and you know. So it was constant learning because I had to be better and do better and how do we grow? I didn't know how to grow. That was completely out of sorts for me. Marketing was out of sorts for me. And then there's the
Yeah, but I saw you constantly implemented things that you learned running. A business is a business is a business.
so that's
You're
the
just
thing.
selling a different
So we
product.
wanted it to be what we knew is we wanted a community because, and that word is like thrown around now, but we wanted it to be where it was comfortable because anytime I travel out of state or out of town or whatever, I like to go take yoga classes. For one, I love taking yoga classes for places that I don't know anybody. They don't know me, the teachers, like I like exploring those things, but it also gives me an opportunity to bring things back to the studio or learn sort of. But and some of them or a lot of the experiences when I'm out of town, I'll walk into a studio and it's even still now, 28 years later, it's very uncomfortable to walk in there and nobody knows who you are and they're not really helping you and you don't know where to go. And I don't have my mat because I'm traveling. The main thing for us, the main focus was to make sure that when everybody walked through that door, they didn't have that feeling. Like it is hard enough for you to go try something new, go somewhere new, especially if you're by yourself. The last thing you need is to walk in there and there's 5 people. Felt like high school, right? Like you would walk in and they knew each other because they practiced together, and then that feeling had to be removed. So that was the part is like everybody has to know your name at the studio. You walk in there, whether you're staying for one class or whether you're a member now, we know who you are. Like that is one thing that was very important. So that correlated to real estate because in real estate you build your client. I mean that's you spend a lot of times with one client, so there's a lot of little things that you do that you start to learn, and so. Part of it was implementing some of those, like milestones were big, when you sell your house or when you get your 1-year anniversary for your house, we like to celebrate that. Or so every little milestone we started to do those. And Elizabeth's very creative with names and whatever. And so it was like she's an idea machine and I'm an implementing machine. And so it came together where we sort of put that together and everything. The hard transition or the hard part is running the studio like a business because yoga is not a business. The yoga studio is a business. The yoga is not a business. So there's finding that line. And then how do you make it sustainable? Because ladies and gentlemen, if you want to become rich, don't open a yoga studio. That's not where it's at. You can make money in it. There's a lot of different ways, but if you're just like going to open a studio and that's not where it's at. So for it to be self-sustaining.
But you started it as a passion to just do that.
Okay, so this guy, can't remember his name, he had Bayou Karate. And he thought he had this great idea that if he had like a one-stop shop for people, like when mothers drop their kids off, they could do yoga or whatever. So he's like, if you guys come with me, you can practice. He had like a dojo or I think that's what they're called. So so he's like, if I'll be Bayou Karate and then you guys could be under my thing and you could just be Bayou Yoga. And we were like, ew, that is such a cheesy, who would do Bayou Yoga? Like that's so predictable. Yeah. And then we're like, you know what, let him.
Then we're going to keep
he's
it.
Pay, I mean, we're just going to,
8 years, 9 years
he's paying
later.
for the space, like fine. So we created, Kelly Buchanan helped us do our first little logo, or it was the tree, in the bayou. So it was like that. We sort of went with it. And then after a while it grew on us and we like really liked it. And so it stuck, but that was it. And he was open for maybe not even a month and he had to leave to go take care of his grandma out of state. So like that failed. Then we joined, in that studio. It was next to a smoke shop, like cigar shop. And so while we were practicing, they shared air ducts and it was filled with cigar smoke. Right. So we would have to get there early and air it out. And like, it was awful. And we had 3 students, maybe. I went to every one of Elizabeth's class so that she wasn't alone. So people would think there were warm bodies there. She came to every one of my classes. Sean would come when he could. So we just did that and that did not last long. So then we started looking, we sort of fell upon this place on
the Jazzercise place, wasn't
it?
The
Jazzercise. I think Mary Beth maybe.
Yeah.
Put
it was
us in
right
touch.
Across the street from the gym that y'all started at.
So we had one there. Last class was at 7, so they gave us a slot for an hour.
And at that time, what do you have? 10 students, maybe?
No!
8 students?
3.
So when did it go over the breaking point where it was time? Y'all
So
were
we did
actually
that.
collecting money and y'all opened up the spot on West
So
Causeway.
watch. So we did that there, and it was me and Elizabeth. Okay. And then Mary Beth introduced us to Katie. So Mary Beth knew Katie Spurlock. So she started coming. So she was like one of the
these
first
are
paying
paying
customers.
members, right?
And it was like not expensive. It was $59 a month or something. Then Cheryl found us online because then we created a Facebook page.
started to get
Cheryl
social media
Stevenson. So she
pumping.
was working across the lake and she drives back and there was nothing on the North Shore that had lake classes. We were the only one. And it wasn't by choice. It was because nobody else would give us a spot, that we could afford. So it was Cheryl and Katie and then Elizabeth and I for the longest time. Then Michael came along. I don't know how Michael, I know how Michael found us. The lady wanted her spot now, so we couldn't be there anymore. So we switched across the street to this gym. Anytime Fitness, I think it was.
Yeah, something
maybe
like
not.
that.
No,
yeah.
it's not Anytime.
It was
Anyway,
something like
so
that,
we went
though.
there and he gave us a spot because he had a gym and then next to it where he did private classes. And so we would offset some of that for him. So we had 2 times now. We had 6 o'clock and 7:15. And so Michael was a friend of that guy. So he came, I guess the guy told him, and Michael came and took one of our classes and he stayed. And then Mickey came and then Angel. I don't know how Angel found us. He lived in Slidell. So it was those were like the 5 core.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. And there was Angela started coming. She was from Slidell. I mean, it was like maybe 6 people. Then he started adding more weights. And so we had smaller space. And then he brought in bikes. And then we were like, okay, like we had no room to
I
practice.
gotta
You
get
can't
another
practice
member too,
around.
so we can get us our own space.
So then we started looking. And Mandeville is not the place for you to get
cheap rent. That's gonna
that you don't have to
sustain
build
a
out.
yoga
And
studio.
we had 5 students. I mean, so we sat down, did a business plan, and we're like, what if? And we were like, what if we just tried for a year? We found a guy that was like that strip we were in was dead or dying. Like nobody was in
And so
there.
you got a good rental
So
space. It was
he did the
inexpensive.
escalation clause with us as we grew. He let us. So it started off. He gave us 2 months, I think, to build it out.
And luckily, Sean
did all the
Elizabeth
build
said-
out. So that it was like a lot of beautiful little. Michael helped out, and then we had Mickey, and to be like everybody came in, and we have pictures. It was us who painted. It was like the students that were with us. Sandra was in that picture. Tabita, Michael, Mickey. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, and it was us. And Elizabeth had little babies. The girls were there on the floor. I mean, it was like we were living there. So we did that, and we're like, okay, so balls to the wall. Let's just try 1 year, because then by that time it wouldn't have been too bad with the escalation. If it doesn't work out, we're just like, okay, we try. Like this has been 4 years of us being dropped from like 1 hour time slots, and it's like that's when we started. Like if
So
we
did
build
word
it,
of mouth work? Did marketing work?
if
Did
we build
social
it, they will
media?
come. I think it was. So we had a 21-day challenge, $25.
Yeah. Or
Okay, so
$25
drop in was
21
15.
days.
If you come to 2 classes, you've already made money. Like you've already gotten more your money's worth. So people started doing some of that, and then we were doing first class for free. We did a lot of booths,
giveaways,
booths, and free yoga here, and practices there, and put herself out there, and like there was a lot of events attending.
So the first thing, they got the free class. Then you sold them on the 21-day challenge for $25 more. After that time frame, hopefully they would sign
So
up
the free
and
class
do a
didn't last
$60 a
long.
month.
That's business 101. Don't give people stuff
Free
out for free.
stuff.
They don't care. They don't. Yeah. So it was more like, okay, we'll do the 20. So you do $15 for a drop in, or 25 for 3 weeks of. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Like
right.
that's
As many classes
it's a
as you
no-brainer.
want. Y'all still do that, and y'all pick up the students every month doing that.
So it was
simple
like
thing.
if they come because they would come to the free class and never come back. So we eliminated it, and we're like, okay, well, here's the thing. If you give us $25, you get to be here first. So you're still winning. Give me 3 weeks to prove that we could do this. So anyway, we did that, and it took off a little bit. Then we had Jennifer Cabrera. Shout out to Jennifer. They had just moved to Mandeville from Houston. She was a teacher, and she approached us and asked if she could teach, if we needed a teacher. And at the time we were like, we can't afford to pay anybody. Are you kidding? But then it was like an hourly thing. So it worked out where she took over.
You pay a teacher by
She
the
took
class,
over Sundays.
$25. You come and
And
teach.
I can't tell you when the last time Elizabeth and I had a Sunday off. I mean, it was like 5 years of this. So she took Sundays over, which was terrifying, but And then Nicole Moya, Rockwell now at the time, she came so Rob Rockwell would drop in. We didn't know anything about this guy. He would just show up take a class, and he was really good, and we just didn't know anything about him. Super quiet. We just knew him as Yoga Rob. We didn't know his name. He would, dude, Yoga Rob came to class today. It was like, and then after a while, Yoga Rob reached out to us and he said, hey, my girlfriend Nicole teaches yoga. She'd like to meet with you guys. And we're like, okay, but we can't. At the time, we had only evening classes because we both worked. So Nicole wanted to build out the morning classes, and we're like, okay.
And she was really talented.
Oh my God.
And she's really
Amazing.
good.
Amazing.
Right.
So, but her style of yoga is different than ours. And so that's where
that's good,
she was
though.
concerned and we were concerned. We're like, you know what? It's a blank canvas. Like we don't have,
we can do it any way we want to do
as
it.
long as it's all under the same umbrella of how we treat people, our values, our mission. Like if that aligns.
You mean the culture?
The
that
culture.
we're trying to build constantly
that,
with real estate and
right kind of thing. Like we gave again, like we do with the agents. We give them the boundaries, the stop guards, and I said, do whatever you want in there. And so there was some trial and error, and there were some things that she liked, and she did. We built out that morning. I mean, we got to the point where we had like over 30 classes a week.
Yeah.
Lots of teachers, great teachers. I mean, people we never would have met. It was really fun. And then COVID happened, and it all stopped. And then we were.
I mean, y'all got up to almost 100 students. Y'all had stuff that you would sell, merchandise. You had people
it's
dropping
full.
in, popping in, coming from all over the country, showing
like
up. to
while
pop
I'm
in.
there, I was like, it doesn't. It
Y'all were
feels
doing
like I'm at
classes. You
home.
were
It's
teaching
fine.
people how to become yoga instructors. You had people.
All of it.
Like we did last week. You had the guy come in town that was the big yogi
Leslie
guy.
Kaminoff, talk about a dream come true. I'm such a nerd. It's nice.
But I mean, those type things are attractions, and that's how you built the studio. And then a shift in the market happens, similar to what real estate happens here or there. A lot of hard work, a lot of groundwork put in, but you'd built a successful studio, and then they shut down all gyms, all yoga studios,
everything.
And you had
So
to.
we had built, or we had, like, it's not that. Yes, there's the business, but the community, the whatever you want to call it, our students, it really is a little family. Like we know these people inside and out. They've been with us for years, and they know our lives, our kids, our jobs, our worlds. We know theirs. It's very intertwined. So when that happened, we really we went to them and we're like, so what do you guys want? If we do this, if we figure out a way to keep the classes going, will you come? Like, are you going to attend?
And you had to do that ridiculous measure the distance between people. You had
Anyway,
to wear a mask when you wore it, came in. And
No, before that, we had to figure out a virtual class and how to teach on
that was
Zoom.
the first thing.
And then we had to get the teachers on board because, I mean, everybody had to want to, and everybody wanted to. The teachers wanted to, the students wanted to. And so we had to figure out how to do that and how to, that was, so many times along the 6 years, Elizabeth and I were like, dude, is this worth it?
Yeah.
And then
Are we
COVID
gonna
happened.
keep going?
COVID happened. And then we were like, for real though, I think it's time. Like, we're just done. It was exhausting. And then everybody was going through the pandemic and just melting down or but like, so were we, but we couldn't, I couldn't stop because you had to. So part of it was helpful.
Because that was sort of an outlet for a lot of people. A lot of people gained weight. They'd sit around and drink and eat all the time, but they needed some type of
It
physical
was a
activity.
connection too. I mean,
Right,
you
human,
lost contact
right.
with people. So it kept me going. Like I had a schedule still every day, which was beautiful. I think if I would have lost that, it would have been hard for me to recoup. So I had my hours that I taught and I had to prep the classes and I had to be engaged with the students. And so Elizabeth and I would meet at the studio and we'd do classes to put out for them so they can practice on their own time. And we did videos updating them with what we were doing. So we kind of kept talking to them without having real contact with them. I mean, with people.
But even with the shift, you had to do financial cutting of budgets. You had to cut back on students. Some students left and didn't renew.
A lot of people, yeah.
And then you had to cut your budget back. You had to cut instructors back. And
Red
there's
light,
things
green
that you have
light
to
came
do
into
from,
play,
yeah,
right?
right.
So what kind of oils are we using? How many towels are we doing? What kind of, dishwash or whatever, laundry detergent, everything had to be looked at. Everything had to be, if the idea first was like, do we want to keep doing this? Yes. Okay. Well, how are we going to keep doing this? We talked to Ricky, the landlord. Hey,
He helped. Yeah.
so we need, and he was like, well, I'm in the same boat as you guys.
Lose tenants.
He's like, my bank's not going to give me a break. So he was like helping us out. Everybody sort of joined and the students kept coming and I don't know. It just worked out. And a lot of, some teachers didn't come back and some did come back. So that got scary too, because then we were understaffed.
Yeah,
and that was
when it started to pick back up.
There was a lot of back end stress that was added on at that point. And then it was always the game of like, is it worth it? And then it sounds so cheesy, but like the students that kept coming, like, thank you so much for I'm so glad I have this. I can't do without it. I'm so happy. Those things we go like, okay, so maybe it's like every time we would hit that spot where we were we joke about the universe constantly going like, you're not done. Like it always
No.
kind of pulls us back. And there's always somebody that texts us, something that falls into our lap, an opportunity shows up, something. So it always sort of pulls us back. And that's the direction. You have to be listening to it or seeing it, right? Because you could miss those cues or just not interpret it, or maybe you read into them, whatever it is. You find, you see what you want
Overanalyze,
to.
which
You
is
see
your
what you want to.
specialty, right?
Yeah. So I took it as, oh, they want me to keep doing this. So we kept doing it, and then it started going back. And then we had to do price adjustments, like with
Yeah,
real
same
estate. I mean,
thing.
we had to,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the costs have gone up. Our rent was gone up. Our
Had to increase
utilities,
monthly.
utility companies went up. I mean, everybody's had to go through that.
Everybody's experienced
Our condo fees went up.
inflation.
Our taxes have gone up.
Right.
Like everything, we're just going to have to, so we did some market research. What are other studios doing all around Louisiana? Because it's also very hyper local. You can't go and compare studios in California.
prices to Louisiana prices.
Yeah, New York's
Same
prices.
thing with
exactly.
yeah.
So, got all the studios, lined them up, looked at it, get through some stuff. And so then we sent out another email to her. We don't want to do this. Like anytime the business side comes up is when we're forced to make these decisions that like wouldn't come into play, where we just want to practice yoga. Like, could we not? But you can't get to that without having this sort of like selling a house. You can't sell a house without going through the steps of selling a house.
Yeah.
You can't buy a house without going through the uncomfortable feeling of pre-qualifications and getting the paperwork and, oh my
Doing
God, inspections. Like
right.
those are the things that we have to get to. And so I think our students are like, you attract the people, right? The same way. So the people that are with us, they know Elizabeth and I, and the phase of life that she's in, the phase of life that I was in, it's sort of, we're going through phases at different times. So that helps, we're not both with young kids and doing young things. Like when I needed to back off a little with Ryan divorced, and then she's doing with her younger kids now. And so it's just like, it seems to always work its way out, but there are a lot of places that it intersects: yoga, business, real estate, and business, and then the teaching people. So it is, yes, there's yoga and there's all those things, but it also for us, it's more like the coping mechanisms and the skills to do life right now. Like we talk about football a lot, but
Yeah. I think
how does that
football is an
correlate?
easy correlation to running a small business and having a team work for you and understand. It's
Not really.
everything that I did leading up to becoming a real estate agent correlated. I don't think you can't look past anything that you do and take for granted opportunities. I think a lot of times people just take for granted or think they're entitled to something. I mean, even making sandwiches in my first job, and customer service and taking care of people, and learning how to deal with people and team, everything sort of correlates down the road if you throw yourself 100% at it. And with football, I mean, the hard work, the discipline, the showing up every day, getting up when you got knocked down. How many times have I been hung up on the telephone talking about real estate? And if I didn't have some grit to me or tenacity to me, I would have given up a long time ago. How many times have I gone to a listing appointment and competed with 5 or 6 different agents for the listing and been told, no, you're not good enough? And I think you have to build up some thickness around that, because you're not going to be the right fit for everybody. But if you can keep going and push through the hard times, you become better and do more, and your capacity goes up, and you just become better at what you do. With all the losses turn into wins if you don't look at them as failures, as like stopping. And with football, many times I got knocked on my rear end. Yeah, I had an opportunity to play college football. Yeah, I was all conference. Yeah, I was all American. Yeah, I went and played pro football, but I got my ass kicked plenty of times. Plenty of times I've been knocked down and told I'm not good enough, or I wouldn't go to the next step or have that next opportunity in life, in real estate, and in football. But those things toughen you up and give you grit that you need to become the best version of yourself. And I think that's what football did for me. It taught me to push even through the hard times and get up even if I'd been knocked down, because life's going to knock you down every now and then. My grandfather always used to tell me, life is tough. You better get tough with it. And if you're not willing to get tough with it, you're not willing to succeed in life. You're not willing to overachieve and do more than you want to do. So, football is, I certainly miss it. I hadn't played the game in over 20 years. They just had Super Bowl 58. I was in Super Bowl 38. And I couldn't believe the other day, it's been 20 years since I walked on that field, almost a
You
little, and it just
you still
blows
get
my mind.
emotional every time you
Yeah,
talk
it's
about it.
just, we walked into the LSU indoor facility and I walked through the halls of their new facility and saw my picture and my name on the wall. And when you walk up to Tiger Stadium and my name is on a plaque, and I was not the best, but I was one of the best. I was one of the better guys that got accolades and recognized.
Recognized.
And it's like my blood, sweat, and tears went into that university in one little way, or my blood, sweat, and tears went into the National Football League in some certain way. And yeah, you get a lot, winning awards in real estate, being the top guy in the region. Guys still ask me about, the 6 or 7 year run where we broke records and did things. It's nice to know that you're still respected and admired to a point. And I still have realtors reach out to me and talk to me and want to know about what I'm doing in business. And that feels good, but it can't ever be enough. I think you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, and there's no in between. And that's where I've started to embrace, I'm a little older, but I'm a heck of a lot wiser. I might not have the energy or the guts or the fuel that I once had, but I'm a lot smarter from all the failures that I've had over time.
Do you think you're moving forward now, or
Yeah,
moving
I mean,
backward?
certainly with the shift in the market, you feel like you're moving backwards. You take 10 steps up, you take 2 or 3 back, and then you have to take 4 or 5. You have to get the gumption up to do it again. But it's part of life. Life is about moving forward, taking the lumps, learning from those lumps, and then do it again and again and again until it's all said and done, and I take my last breath.
You know how people are always asking, not always asking us, but like they just in general now, it's like a big hyped up thing about self-care or whatever. What is the Lewis Williams? How do you get yourself back up? Because I see it, and I
think
know
with me, it's routine. You know how I am. I get up before 4 a.m., 5 days a week, and on the weekends, 6 a.m. I go to the gym. I have my routine, and when I get out of my routine, I get uneasy. If I don't get on the phone at 8 o'clock and I show up in my pajamas instead of a suit, and I'm not, fine-tuned, if I haven't talked to my accountability partner at 8 a.m. every morning, I'm just a different person. It's like.
So when you went to an appointment, it didn't work out, deals fell through, whatever. What do you do to get yourself back up? Like, I know what I do to make myself feel better.
I always know I can go find another piece of business. If I work hard enough and I go just put another deal together, just talk to someone else about what I can.
What do you do? Like,
Get
you watch
pissed for
TV,
15
you check
minutes or
out, you get on
15
your
seconds
phone, you
and-
eat, you drink, you cry. Like, what do you do?
A lot of times I analyze where were my shortcuts. I tried to turn the mirror back on myself. Where did I fail myself? Where did I fail my client? Where did I not ask the right questions? Where did I not push what I should have pushed?
Okay, but when something like that happens, your routine shifts a little bit. You go off of, you go off diet, or you go off course, or you go off whatever, so that you almost like allow a little pity party, and then you get back up and you move again. So what does the pity party look like?
Well, you know about me and ice cream.
Okay.
I like me some ice cream.
So you eat
I'm
ice
not,
cream?
I'm not a drinker. I'm not a heavy drinker. I'm not a big partier. I don't go completely off the rails, but I will get some ice cream every now and then and tear into a jar of that.
So you have pity party with ice cream, and then you can
but
get
then
up
I
and
feel
go.
horrible the next day because I've done it because, a little bit of that uneasiness or bathroom problems because of all that lactose. I'm not lactose intolerant, but when you eat half of a gallon
Anybody
of
would
ice
be.
cream, anybody's a little lactose intolerant. But yeah, I think that's probably my biggest weakness, and I can't even have it in the house. And when I have made a mistake, or I haven't gotten a listing, or a big deal has fallen apart, or I didn't have the month that I thought I was, or I lost an agent on the team that I didn't want to lose. I just try to focus on where was my skin in the game, where could I have improved, where can I find my next opportunity. And when I do the best I can with it. Not anybody's perfect with that. Everybody has their pity party and goes get a gallon
What
of
about
ice
your
cream.
grumpiness?
I get grumpy, and you have to experience that more so than most people because you live with me and you're my wife.
You know how I know?
hate that,
I know
but
how you're hurting is you get grumpy. Like, I cry.
I'm
you
snappy.
get
I get
snap.
grumpy.
Like, oh, Louis is
they say
hurt.
my alternate
ego.
ego is the Incredible Hulk, and I do have moments where I Hulk out. but it's usually short lived, and then I come back to reality and sort of
So what are
muscle
mine?
through it. You do cry. You get very needy and emotional,
Aw.
and you want to talk about everything. I just want to give you solutions, but you just want to sit there and make me listen to it. And I know I need to just shake my head and go, "Oh, I get it. I understand. That's a lot of counseling to understand all that about a woman." But yeah, you want to dump on me and just want me to listen, and I'm a solution maker. Want to resolve it or fix it for you, and that's not necessarily what you need at that moment. You just need a moment to emotionally unwind and emotionally let go, and then you
I want you
usually.
to agree with me that it sucks. I
I
just
know
want
it
you
sucks,
to,
but I
yeah.
just want to say, okay, this is how we fix it.
I don't
This
want
is
to fix it. I want to cry about it for a minute.
all right. Well, I'm working on it still
Yeah.
after 5 years of marriage.
It is, I think the hard part, life is in general, but it's hard when uh, there's so little control you get to have in this business too. The opportunities for
Yeah.
you to fix things are not always there. And that's hard, especially when it affects other agents, other people,
Yeah.
sellers, buyers,
I think that's why you focus on what you can control and you have to
and try to
let
do it really
go of
well.
what you
Yeah.
can't control. And there are certain things in certain aspects of the business, if you really decide that you can help control that or you can help aid that or you can work that forward, that's where you focus your energy at. You can't control everything outside the
There
the
is an element of, every job. So, like at the studio, there's things within a class that are, I say it's magic. It just feels like everything lines up and everything is just magic and everything is
Mhm.
just beautiful, whatever you want to call it. There are moments like that in real estate where you line up with the client values, you see
Mhm.
their goals, you know what they want, they see you for who you are. You're not putting on a show, that you're working with them, and they're trusting you to the extent that your skill set can carry them through this. Like it
Yeah.
can. So that part for me is, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. And I usually don't. I'm not that assertive. I don't like
Aggressive,
to be
yeah.
anyway. I mean, I don't want to be. I'm not trying to push you into anything. But that level of comfort that somebody can have and be like, hey, what do you think I should do? And then we can have honest conversations about it. And like those real moments that happen where you're helping people make these huge life decisions,
Mhm.
I think for me are probably like the moments, the days that I'm like, that was a good day, even if it was hard emotionally, because it does get hard and I do get sad for them and it just hurts my heart and I don't
Yeah.
want it and I want it for them, or I'm mad, and you can't control it because there's other people on the other side. But those moments that you connect to people and that they see enough in you that you're not going to lead them the wrong way. Like the level of
Right.
trust is there,
Trust.
even though there's not always an established relationship.
Mhm.
If it is an established relationship, that's even better. And there's, I think for me, a stronger level of not to get myself involved in them. Like, let's just say my sister was buying a house, or when Elizabeth, like those things get super close to home.
Sticky. Yeah,
It
really
gets super
sticky.
close to home, and I have to be careful not to get my emotions
Mhm.
involved because I want it so bad for them, or I want to take care of them, or I want to. So, it's always
It's
that
a
that
delicate balance
dance
between
of.
personal and
So sometimes
professionalism.
I think that I'm wired perfectly for some parts of real estate, and
Mhm.
other times I think, gosh, I wish I was more of a machine like Louis. Like
Mhm.
sometimes with the way your ability to just go like, well, let's just hold off on the emotion until I deal with it, and then you can, because that
Yeah.
part is
Well, I think
very
that goes
helpful.
back to what is your biggest strengths. That's why I handle most seller listings because it has to be a little bit more of a direct to the point, emotionally
I
under
don't want to.
control and between the margins. And then buying a house is a little bit different. Like I went out and showed houses today from a buyer and I have to work outside my comfort zone. Now I was capable of connecting with the customers you had me showing houses to. They knew I knew what the heck I was talking about and I gave them information that they needed to help make a good decision on the house they were going to make an offer on. But that's out of my comfort zone to feel super warm and fuzzy. You don't want a listing agent that feels super warm and fuzzy. You want somebody that's going to get you a result and help you move forward with your plans. And I think that's the thing that's so cool about real estate is you can find out what you're really good at and throw yourself at that and then either help delegate or delay or just build a business around the other aspects. And that's all I did to build a real estate team. I forced myself to do everything long enough until I knew everything. And then I decided this is what I love to do. I love to prospect. I love to help people. I love to deal with seller listings. I love this aspect of the business. And then I can hire to all my weaknesses on people that are 10 times better at me in those areas. Much like you running the ops and me running the sales side. Even though you have plenty to offer the sales side, and I can force myself long enough to build any system. But I think that's the difference between a no good agent, a mediocre agent, and a mega agent is the ones that can force themselves long enough to understand what they're great at and what their challenges are, and then start hiring and running a real estate business opposed to just a real estate practice that sells 6 or 8 houses a year. Historically, after Mardi Gras, here in Louisiana, it's not after Christmas. It's usually not after the first of the year. It's after Mardi Gras. And Mardi Gras has loosened some things up.
Yeah.
Rates have continued to come down. They had gotten up over 7%, 7.5%. Now they're about 6.5%. Sometimes you'll see a 6% rate, which is going to loosen some things up. Inventory is still extremely low, which is keeping prices stable. You know, they've come down a little bit because rates have gone up 2-3 points in the last several years. But we are seeing some loosening of stuff. We've had recently several houses that have gotten multiple offers on properties again, which we hadn't seen in a very long. That's a
Yeah.
lot of fun when we have some multiple offer situations. But that's also hiring the right agent that understands the market enough to give you good information to be strategically priced to generate that type interest in a home. It's a combination of pricing, promotion, and preparation. Those are the 3 P's that we look at when we sit down. We want to make sure the house looks the best it possibly can, be competitively priced as possible, and let our promotion of the property take over and do what it does every time. And when it's those first 2 are knocked out of the ballpark, number 3 shows up and you get multiple offers. And that's exactly what's happened in several different price points in several different areas all over the greater New Orleans area. So that is still happening. Houses sell in every market. You just have to be a little bit more aggressive than you've been in the past over the last 5 years of waiting for the phone to ring or waiting for your marketing to be effective. I think that's what separates our team more so than any team. We're prospecting based. We're always going to be prospecting based. And when people raise their hand interested in buying or selling real estate, they're going to hear from our team verbally, text messages, artificial intelligence, and emails. And then we're going to connect with them and help them move forward with their plans. So, real estate is looking up. I think it's going to continue to look up over the next several months. And hopefully towards the end of the year, spring and summer, it'll sort of equalize and move forward like it has in the past. Now, I don't think we're going to see the same market we saw several years ago where everything was selling overnight. That's just not happening. It's becoming more of a balanced market, 4 to 6 months of inventory in most price points, less than 90 days list price to contract time. As far as days on market and things like that. So things are definitely starting to equalize. It's just so foreign to most realtors because there's a large portion of realtors that have only been in the business 5 to 7 years. I've been in almost 2 decades. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And right now we're experiencing a little bit of the ugly. But I've been there, done that once before, and people keep asking, well, why in the hell are you scaling your business? Well, because this is the opportunity that we've seen since 2008 to do that. And the last time 2008 rolled around, I started scaling my business, and that's where I made my name in the real estate industry on the North Shore. And we're planning on doing that a second time for the next 10 years of our existence in this business. And then hopefully one day we'll be able to check the box and say we're ready to retire and do it one last time, the third time around. First time was the NFL. Second time was number 1 in the region. Third time's do it one last time.
What are my times?
Well, your time's ride it out with me.
Okay. All right. I'd love to hear what you do for fun.
Well, my morning always starts with the gym 7 days a week. That's one thing I do enjoy.
How long are you there?
2 hours usually, hour and a half to 2 hours. Weekends usually an hour and a half. Weekdays is usually 2 hours. I need some time to get cranked up. This old 45-year-old body ain't like it was.
2
when it was-
hours. Okay.
That's
yeah.
why I'm there at 4:30 in the
insane.
morning.
Right,
so I
right.
like a good workout. I like to get a sweat going. So that's one of my hobbies. I like going to the gym. I like riding the spin bike. I like being held accountable. I have people that I meet up there. I have workout partners and coaches and stuff like that, just like I've experienced my whole life. With real estate, we have a business coach. With foot sports, I've had coaches, and that's what I believe in. I really enjoy movies. And after COVID, a lot of these movies got shut down actually going to the theaters. So I like to get back into the theaters. We talked about doing that this weekend. And as far as late nights, I don't do any partying. That's just not me. I'm not a big drinker. I'll have a couple drinks here or there or go socialize at different places, but I'm not a night owl. If you're getting up at 3:30 in the morning, most mornings, Monday through Friday, you got to get to bed by 9 o'clock, and sometimes it's 8 o'clock.
By what time?
And then I like dinner. I like a nice restaurant. That's really what I enjoy. I like taking my wife out to dinner. I like taking you out to dinner. That's a lot of fun. We have a couple different restaurants that we like to hang out. It can be a fancy restaurant. It can be a not so fancy restaurant. It can be beer and wings, beer and burger, whatever. So those are really the three highlights that I like to do.
So there's no like team sports or anything anymore.
Team sports, I like to go to LSU games,
No,
LSU
you
football
don't do
games.
movement
No,
like that.
not
No?
like that. Very rarely.
I mean, not football. I'm sure you can't play football.
I like physical exertion. I like going outside. I like walking on the lakefront. I like walking the dogs. I like hiking. I like laying on the beach, but I'm not going to do over that time's done. And I know how I get when I get that competitive and the type of person I turn into. I don't like to do things half-ass. I'm just not that way. And I get very competitive. I'm a competitive person. I played a very physical sport and I play to win. So if I'm going to play to win, I'm going to go all in. And to get to the level I did as an athlete, I know what it really takes to be really, really good and at your top notch and feel the way you need to feel and look the way you need to look and carry yourself and prepare the way you need to be your best. Not that I'm intimidated by that, but it would take my focus away what I want to do in the second part of my life, which was to run a successful real estate business and to grow a successful real estate team. That's what I've thrown myself out, and that's actually what saved me in my second phase of life. A lot of times when you leave as an athlete, you're treated a certain way, especially as a collegiate athlete and a professional athlete. You're almost treated, especially in Louisiana, like a superstar, like a god. Even though I was never like a superstar athlete, I still did some pretty cool stuff as a football player. And then
Big
to
man
like
on.
be resorted back to average Joe and get to be like everybody else and to learn the 9 to 5 job. If I didn't have real estate, I got depressed after football ended, and I didn't really, much like probably like a military guy gets when they come back from a war or something. My whole life for 15 or 20 years revolved around preparing for the next stage of my athletic career. And then that ended, and I said, well, what am I going to do with myself now? What am I going to do where my best years of my life were before I was 30 years old? And I just wasn't prepared to do that. And I did get down for a while, but real estate showed up and I figured I was pretty daggum good at it. And later I figured out I was really, really good at it. And the more I threw myself at that, like I threw myself at the other, I started to recognize that, hey, I really enjoy this and I could do something special here. So as far as super duper physical activity, fighting, wrestling, boxing, football, I won't even do CrossFit, to be honest, because I know if I went in there, I'd want to pull 400 pounds off the ground and put it over my head or press 600 pounds off my chest like I used to do. And half my body would probably fall apart at this point. Shit, the last client that asked me to move something for him, I tore my bicep, like off into my shoulder. So, things change as you get older, but I'm at the root of who I am. I'm still the same person, just physically I can't do necessarily what I used to. But in my mind, I sure as hell can. And that's that's 3/4 of the battle most of the time. In your mind, if you can control your mind, you can do some pretty incredible
Sounded
things.
like your dad just there.
Yeah. What?
But in my mind, like your dad used to say stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, your mind's a pretty scary place and a pretty powerful place at the same time. Okay, ready, break.